I served on the space station of Mimas as a liaison for the Earth Embassy, working with many alien races.
Rebecca Rose, Psychic Super Soldier, Moon, Mars, Kuiper Belt, and beyond.
Namaste. I'm Yana Prakash. I am a multidimensional healer, work directly with the Drama Council, and infinite creation through the oneness with all that it is.
We know if you won't tell them the truth, then we will. We are inviting all listeners to join us this October 8th to the 12th in Orlando, Florida, at the Super Soldier Activation Conference, sponsored by the Super Soldier Talk podcast and Healing Soul Survivors 501c3. This grassroots conference seeks to activate your abilities and recover your soul memories. Reserve your spot now at supersoldiercon.com to support survivors of the secret space program, including those impacted by milabs, military abductions linked to MK Ultra, Monarch, and Montauk programming. Par ardua ad astra. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is James Rink. I am the host of Super Soldier Talk. And today we have two special guests. We have Miesha Johnston, and also we have Noel Benoist. How's everybody doing today? Go ahead and unmute yourselves.
Doing great. Thank you.
Unmute yourself, Noel. Okay. Why don't you unmute yourself? So, I'm the host of Super Soldier Talk, and today we're going to do a panel discussion. We're going to kind of go back and forth here, ask different questions, and maybe we'll have Noel be the center of attention. So, Miesha Johnston is a certified hypnotherapist that specializes in trauma release hypnosis and regression therapy. Miesha has appeared on a number of radio shows and has lectured all throughout California, Colorado, Nevada, including the Super Soldier Summits, Mind Control, and many other UFOCons and so on. She is the author of Covert Abduction, Military Harassment, Surveillance and Interrogation and Mind Control, as well as the Autobiography of a Survivor. Her websites are what, Miesha?
My web is starseedawakening.org and then also ufonightwatch.com, where I take people out with night vision goggles and CE5s.
So you do that in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember we went out to, was it Red Rocks Canyon? Are you still allowed to go? Or yeah,
Red Rock? No, I had to move to a different place higher up.
Okay. Okay. All right. And we also have Noel. So Noel, how are you doing today?
Every day I'm breathing. It's a good day. I get another chance at making things go the right way.
Very good. Okay. So Noel Benoist is a Men in Black and former National Security Advisor who served in a high-level MJ12 Internal Affairs National Security position, seat number 13, with a top-secret clearance and access to cryptographic and specialized intelligence systems, effectively broad authority over intelligence matters. He co-authored a book with FBI agent Ted Gunderson called The 200-Year Plan, America's Shadows Government and the Great Deceit. Noel, is Ted Gunderson still alive?
No, Ted, matter of fact, when Ted basically validated everything that I gave him, see, I pulled Ted into this way back when I found out everything going on, the good Lord provided a way for me to break ties, and I told him I'm going to break ties, watch what they do to me. And I gave him boxes of evidence and information. And I said, don't even let the director know you've got this because they'll kill you to get it. And I said, watch what they do to me. That'll tell you this is in-house at the highest level. So he sat on it the way I told him to. And then when he got out and they put him in the Hall of Fame, I told him, wait until you've got a really good platform to work from, because they're going to try to make me look insane, like a fraud. They're going to use smear and fear on me like crazy. And I wanted him to be good and solid when he started. And so I said, then investigate, and we'll go from there. God will give us a way to get together again. And so he did that. And I heard he was doing some speaking engagements. I called, and 5 minutes later, he called back, and he came to my place in Arizona, and we went to work on putting the 200-year plan together, because there was literally thousands and thousands of pages in the boxes and evidence I gave him. And when he validated it and we did our joint report, they called him in for what was supposed to be a mandatory physical, or they weren't going to give him his retirement anymore. And they came in with what was supposed to be immunizations. They were drugs. They drugged him up, induced cancer. And when people visited him, even his daughters, they said when they visited, he said, they're trying to kill me, get me out of here. And I told him, why didn't you guys come get me? I'd have gone and got him. I'm not afraid of those guys. But they were afraid of the other people. They were afraid, well, maybe he's delusional or whatever. And so they didn't go get him. And when he had his last hours, they sent him home to die so they could claim died at home of natural causes, cancer. It was murder by cancer.
Miesha, have you heard that story before in the disclosure community? Murder by cancer.
Yeah, right. Happening right now with me. That they gave me cancer when I put out just before I put out my last book here. You Can Handle the Truth. They ended up giving me anemia, and colon cancer. I'm fighting.
Yep. After our book was published, even though they sabotaged the first book, the Black Book, which sold for $5,000 on Amazon as a collector's copy, and they tried to make Ted and me look like we're illiterates. Well, Ted and I have done intelligence reports for decades, and in an intelligence report, you cannot have any errors. If you got one period that's out of place, you got to redo the whole report. And that's one of the ways we tell a counterfeit, because it's a perfect report, we did it. And they messed it all up, and even though it was messed up, it had more than what they wanted revealed. 2 days after that was published, they ran me off the road with an 18-wheel truck, hoping for an unexplained highway fatality. So these people, they are the most dangerous, ruthless, heartless. They've got no ethics, no anything. Their goal is one thing. They're going to control the world, and they don't care how many babies they kill, women they kill. They don't care what they do to get there.
So I think it was Stanton Freeman who termed the coin the Majestic 12. But Noel, was it actually called Majestic 12 or Magic 12?
They called their own self. Stan Freeman did not coin it. They coined themselves as the Majestic 12, because what's majestic? Godlike.
Godlike. Mm-hmm.
And they took off of Majestic 12, MJ12, Magic, and the reason they took Magic is because they use the principles of magic in doing the things they do. But yeah, that came out of their own mouth, Majestic 12. And when I hit seat 13, I was internal affairs between them and all others for all matters of national security, which was kind of weird because I had Battlefield Major Leaf on my lapel. I got my badge on my hat, but Joint Chiefs of Staff and the President would call me sir. And it felt kind of weird with a Battlefield Major, and I got 4 and 5 stars and a president saying sir to me, you know. But that's how high they felt I was, because I had complete autonomy. I literally, at 19 years old, had the power to start World War III by myself. I had that power. I could kill anybody, and the investigation would die in the interest of national security. And I told them, that's too much power for one person to have. And they said, well, you're not going to do that. I said, I'm not going to do it, but I'm not going to live forever. And every time you put somebody new in my seat, you're getting closer to the one who will do it. And I wanted some checks and balances at the very least. And whenever I complained to them about some of the things I found that were going on, the number one guy, I had already signed a contract that gave me my lifetime authority and my lifetime appointment. And they said, from now on, you belong to us. You don't get out unless we let you out. But they had a second contract ready, which is actually a contract with Satan. And the good Lord knew it. And I was waiting for permission to marry a German national and get her a security clearance. Had that come through, I would have been theirs forever. But when we had our disagreement, I put in for 30 days leave, and they thought I was just going to go cool down. I went and got my fiance and said, come on, we're moving the wedding up. And so I had the wedding moved up about a week or so, and the family did everything. Had the Burgermeister do his part. Then I went to the Army chaplain, had him do his part. And then we went on our honeymoon, and I went back to S2, G2, G4, and all those guys. And I walked in, and I had told them before, I said, you guys are going to straighten up or I'm out of here. They said, you process through personnel, we'll reactivate you on the other side. You're ours for life. And I said, no, you won't. They said, how do you figure? I said, watch me. Well, they should have watched me. They didn't watch me. And so I walked back in, and I said, told you guys I'm out of here. They said, how do you figure? I threw the papers on the desk, said, I'm married to a German national. I'm a security threat. You got 30 seconds to transfer me, and it's mandatory. We'll court-martial you. I said, no, you won't. I said, you don't want a public trial and have the whole world know who and what you are. And I said, number two, you won't get a conviction because nobody ordered me not to marry her. A request was made. I happened to be internal affairs. I was considering your request. I decided to deny it, and you can appeal my denial, but I think you're a little late. So the next day, they transferred me to regular Army as a private E2 arts and crafts specialist, and they sealed my file in the interest of national security.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow. So Miesha, you have any questions? Why don't you unmute yourself there? Go ahead and mute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yes, it got me. Okay. Actually, I do. Because I'm sorry, I just met you. So I have a couple of questions about when did they first put you into the MyLab, or not the MyLab, the MIB program?
Well, actually, they watched me. I put in for, and I didn't tell them who my dad was at the time. I put in for spy work because my dad was the guy who held the Normandy Day invasion records on his person 24/7, and you had to have orders signed by the president to see them. And the president gave him authority to shoot and kill anybody, no matter what their rank or position, if they tried to get him without those orders. And my dad was the youngest colonel promoted and not rifted after the war. And he was in Signal Corps, which was the predecessor to Intel, because Signal Corps, most of your intelligence started as aerial intelligence. And that's where your Signal Corps got going. And so I went in and I just told him, and when they were going to give him a star, and he said, no, he said, I want to go home. So he came back to California and became the commander for the California National Guard. But I wanted to beat his record on my own. So when I went in, I just told them I was interested in spy work, and they said, well, for that, you really need infantry, etc., and we'll watch you. So I said, okay. So I put in for infantry. They put me in the toughest infantry commander's outfit, Captain Springer, and out of your 100 points for performance and your 100 for knowledge, the highest he had ever given was 37.5. And he called me and he said, Benoist, I called you in because it's eval time. I said, yes, sir, I'm aware of that. And he said, well, I called you in because I want you to know nobody's perfect. I said, God, sir, I hope I didn't give anybody the idea that I think I'm perfect. I know I'm far from perfect. He said, well, I'm glad you know that, but that's not why either. He said, because nobody's perfect, I had to dock you a point or two on eval. I said, oh, that's okay. I had 198.5. A quarter of a point 6 times from, you got two sections, 5 evals. And I got a RCOM and a presidential citation coming out of infantry. I went through advanced infantry training the same way, Ranger the same way, and then I was going to OCS. And so they came to me, and the Men in Black came and said, are you still interested in being with us? And I said, yeah. I said, I'm still interested in being a spy. They said, come with us. I said, well, I'm going to OCS now. They said, you come with us. You keep doing what you've been doing, and we'll take care of your commission. On the GT score, which is like your evaluation, 110 is needed for officer. I had 178.4. And I had 178.4, but I flunked the language aptitude test. even though I spoke Spanish. And they had to send me to Germany for stuff going on. I taught myself High German, Bavarian German, and Schwäbisch German, the two dialects, in 6 weeks, to where I went to Erlangen University and passed for joining the first semester, 7th year. So after they saw me doing some of this, they just kept putting me up. Plus, I tried to tell the commander he was on the wrong beach when the first group went to Vietnam. He didn't listen to me. So it was kind of like God was orchestrating and just making sure I was in the limelight in the right place at the right time. I was there when they took the Butter Meinhof group down. It was just like God made sure, I had this ability or knack or guidance to be where I needed to be to just escalate me to the top. So I actually became, well, see, the first deal, 66, and then 67 was the first levy to Vietnam. And when they found out what I did and what I tried to tell him, they gave me a direct commission out of school. They pinned the second Louis bars on me, and then they teased me and they said, but we can't do that. So they pulled them back off, and I'm thinking, okay, what are you guys doing? They said, you're too good for second Louis, and they pinned the first Louis bars on me and sent me to be squad commander. So then they flew me to meet the group, and I tried to tell the commander that we're in the wrong place. He said, the skyline is right. I said, yes, sir. But I said, over off the port bow, I said, there's a great big boulder. He said, yeah. And I said, there's a smaller one next to it. He said, yeah. He said, a ship can see that. And I said, sir, when the tide is in, they won't see the smaller one. And when a fog is in, they won't see the big one. I said, ever since the Jonathan sank by Crescent City, and they've got Jonathan Rock, they started saying, okay, every boulder that a ship can hit has got to be on the map. They're not on the map. I said, get the longitude and latitude off the skipper's Loran. Just tell him you need the longitude and latitude. He doesn't have the need to know. I said, no, he doesn't need to know. And all you need to do is tell him you want the longitude and latitude off of his Loran. I can plot exactly where we are if you bring that to me. And don't tell me how to do a map. Rah, 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 rah. He says, you're going to stay here. You're not going to go in with the men. I don't want you getting them all worried. He says, you put your second in command in charge. You're going in with me later. And so I was under orders. So I told the guys, I said, you're not assault trained. I am. I said, I don't think we're where we need to be. And I said, anybody wants you to stand up or do stuff, you tell them you're under orders to stay low and keep watch. And so they said, okay. Well, they let everybody relax for about 3 hours, putting stuff on the beach and everything. And all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. And he lost the entire brigade on that beach. And that's pretty hefty strength. And landing personnel, it took 3 days of artillery and airstrikes to drive the communists back far enough to go pick up bodies and equipment. And I wanted him court-martialed, and I was making a big deal of that. And they said, well, Benoist, they said, you were right, but you didn't have the authority. They said, how would you like to be internal affairs? And as of now, you're captain. See, in intel, if you can do the job and you've got the ratings, you don't need time and grade. They could come pin a star on you, boom. And if you get a right eval, that's who you are. And so they said, we're making you captain, and we're putting you in a major slot, and you get your next eval the way you've been getting them, and you'll be major. So they sent me back to the school at Fort Devens because we had a problem. In Fort Devens, and that's in Massachusetts there, we had nuclear warheads, and 2 nuclear warheads came up missing. And that didn't take long for me because things just come to me. And I'm saying, okay, that's not possible unless one or more of the guards on duty are in on it and the officer of the day. So I had them bring the officer of the day in, put him in one room, take the guard and put him in another room. And so, because I figured which one it was, figured they went through the front. And so I just told them, you're going down and you're going to be hung for treason, or you tell me what went on. And I told the guard that. I said, I know that you can be intimidated by a ranking officer, but I said, you tell me the truth, because if I don't get the truth and I find out it's not true, you're going to hang because it's treason. And so he said, yeah, he said the officer of the day came in and he was going to make him a private and he wouldn't be in the national security, and he'd be a ground pounder on the front lines and all this stuff if I didn't cooperate. So I said, okay. I said, I had the guys fill out a statement for him, had him swear to it, sign it. I went in and saw the officer of the day and I said, okay, I know the whole story. Now you're going to hang if you don't take our guys and go recover those warheads. And if they are not here in 2 hours, I'm getting the rope. And I said, I don't need to try you. I don't need to do anything except tie your behind to a tree and then stretch the rope. And so he went ahead and said, yeah, you're right. He took our guards. They recovered the 2 warheads. So I solved that one in less than 24 hours. Then we had another deal came up, and they had a big meeting in Germany, and I'm there undercover. I would normally go to our problem bases as a Spec 4 undercover, because as a Spec 4 I could go to the enlisted men's club, I could go to the NCO club, and then I would get a job bartending at the O Club in our 3 clubs on our base. It didn't take me 2 weeks to know everything going on, because everybody at our clubs, they figure it's secure. It's our club. So they're all talking and drinking, right? And so I sit there and this got this meeting going. So I knock on the door and they open the door and the guy's like, oh, you're not supposed to be here. I said, yes, I am. You are? I said, yeah. He said, give me your ID. So I gave him my ID. Well, my Department of Defense ID states on it, expiration indefinite. You ever see an ID for Department of Defense indefinite? And so he took it. He goes back in. He comes back. He said, you're not who you appear to be. He said, guys, meet the guy in charge of the meeting. And so I said, okay, what do we got going? And they said, well, every time we go to a village or an area, communists are gone and we're killing civilians. And I said, how many of you? I said, I'm going to have you guys raise your hand. I said, how many of you went to our school? Raise your hand. And they raised their hand. I said, how many of you can add 2 and 2 and get 4 instead of 22? Raise your hand. Because I was mad at them. They're not using their heads. And they raised their hand. I said, gentlemen, with our scrambler technology and our rotating code books, even if you got the scrambler, if you don't know the code books or you don't have the code books, you don't know what code book we're working out of tomorrow, you cannot break our code and our messages. It's not possible. I said, count the code books when you distribute them. When you pick them up for destruction, count them again. You're going to be short in 1 or more areas, and that's where our traitor is. Well, we had Chief Petty Officer John Walker Sr. We knew it was him within a week or 2. And so things like that, it was like God would lead me into it, and it was just a 1, 2, 3 for me. And so they said, okay, from now on, you're major, and we want you to be the number 13 spot, internal affairs between us and all others. You are going to be our worldwide problem solver. Any place we've got a problem, you're on it. And I said, okay. So I signed the deal. They said, from now on, you belong to us. But they didn't have me sign that second contract, and they didn't order me not to marry a German. So the good Lord made sure they made a mistake that was my way out. So I was able to break their hold over me.
Thank you, Noel. Well, before I hand the mic over to Miesha, actually, I want to say, Miesha, do you see where it says comments over on the left side?
I do, but I don't see a place for me to type. I see the comments. I click the type.
Does it say okay?
So maybe I'm not allowed to. Sometimes I've noticed.
Oh, usually you can do it. Okay, well, here, I'll tell you what. I'll share my screen. I'll show you what to do.
That,
Okay,
that's
so
okay.
everybody's gonna see the magic behind it all here. So okay, let me actually get rid of this layer here so you can see it. So click on this right here, the comments, and then just go over here. Say hello, everyone. Welcome to Super
You know what? Mine looks different than yours. Mine only says comments in
Aw,
private chat. So evidently,
okay.
uh, as a guest, you can't or something.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll send you the link.
No
And
problem.
you can open it. Do you want me to send you a link and you can open it in a new tab? Would you like me to do that?
That's okay. I'm all right.
Okay.
I just wanted to say hello to somebody, but it's no big deal.
All right. Well, we say hello. Hello to you. Okay. Great. Thank you, Noel, so much. So I've actually still got more of your bio to read here, and then we'll go to some questions, more questions. Okay. So Noel established Truckers Fight for Justice, the National American Indian Veterans Association, and Glory to God United Ministries. He has acted as a spiritual policy advisor for state militia groups across the U.S. and has served in advisory roles for various U.S. presidents or previous U.S. presidents. Recommended that militia affiliated groups organize a peaceful gathering in Washington, D.C. January 6, 2021. Do you remember that? Were you there, Noel?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, matter of fact, actually, I'm currently Trump wanted me for BP at one time, and if they were going to put him in prison, I said, okay, we'll take care of it. And but he asked me, he said, would you at least be a personal advisor at cabinet level? And I said, I can do that. So I am actually a personal advisor at cabinet level, and I'm one of them who I've been pushing to have people who have committed treason, deep state cooperatives, etc., killing Americans. They've killed more Americans than Hitler killed Jews because they've orchestrated wars. They've got agents in other countries, and they pit countries against countries with false information to the leaders, and they are guilty of millions of Americans dying. And so, I mean, I have been pushing to have everybody deep state and connected with deep state, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, hang them for treason, and that will basically prayerfully deter others to do anything like that in the future. And I'm also the one that told Trump, don't let them lie to you about Roswell, etc., and make them show you the stuff we've got and make them be honest with you. And I wanted them to come out with truth about ETs, etc., when I was in. And they said, oh, no, because we've got this world agreement. If we have technology from outer space, we've got to share it. Nobody wants Syria and China to have it, etc. I said, all you got to do is show the ancient drawings, say they've been around watching this for a long time. If they were going to do something to us, they would have done it before now. And just tell them they're out there. If you see something, we give you a reward for letting us know. Then we give you a reward for your silence. And then we just say we don't have anything. The only lie we would have to tell is we don't have anything. I was in a ship when we raised it up, but we don't have anything.
So okay, that's amazing. I've got lots of questions. So I've noticed on your Facebook account you have a picture next to John McCain. Wasn't he like branded a traitor? I mean, he caused an attack on, was it on the Forestall? Killed a lot of
McCain, yeah, McCain's cancer, I think, took him the wrong way. When he first started out, I helped him get in Congress. I helped him get the chair for the Senate Hearing Committee for National Security, helped him get the chair for the Armed Forces Committee. And when he ran for office and they had him out of the race with less than 1% support, you guys might remember that, I was spearheading the veteran health care neglect with Tom McCann, McCain's right-hand VA guy. And I told Tom he'll be the candidate. Tom said, how do you figure? He's got one foot in the banana peel and one in the grave. I said, I've got 1,500 emails ready to go. I'll tell you when I send it. And I said, it'll be on a Friday. The following Monday, he'll raise a point or two or three in the polls, and he'll go on to be the candidate. And I wanted to do it that way because I wanted John to completely and totally go with us. And so he saw it go exactly that way. And John said, oh, we've got to keep the professional group. I said, John, the professional groups are 90% owned and operated by deep state. He said, well, we need them to make deals in D.C. I said, John, it's the deep state deals in D.C. that we need to get rid of. I told him, I said, those guys had you with less than 1%. I said, in less than 6 weeks, my guys took you from 1% to being the candidate. And I told him, I said, you don't need them. And I said, if you're picking them, we're out. I'm walking. And he picked them and went with them. And I told him, I said, John, my friend of 30 years has become my enemy. And that is when he crossed over to the other side.
Wow. And then, there was a whole issue with Sarah Palin, right? She was supposed to bring the female voters, right? But the female voters weren't really resonating with her. Did you, Miesha, did you resonate with the message of Sarah Palin? Why don't you unmute yourself? No. Yeah, unmute yourself. But
they set Sarah up because they had Sarah wear the big fancy clothing that they made a big deal out of. Sarah just wanted to go normal clothing and be a normal gal. And oh no, you're going for vice president. You got to wear this. And then their media people make a big deal out of it in order to swing the vote the other way.
Well, I'm not.
Warn John, they'd set him up. They'll backstab you.
Miesha, you got a question?
No. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I don't follow the politics a lot, so yes, of course I know about him. I didn't really have one opinion or the other about her. Very much though with Kane, not Kane. What's his name?
Kane. McCain.
Yeah, McCain. That's right.
McCain,
right.
there you go.
Yeah, I do not like. I did not care much for him. So my questions are all about the milabs stuff, the MIB stuff, because as a beta slave and actually a presidential model, I have memories of the MIB in aspects of it. So I would like to know, do you know how much, what was going on in those kinds of things, what part did the MIB play with any of those? Because I remember being given drugs and things like that, and see, it all comes in flashes a lot, but I feel like the MIB, the Men in Black, were some of them that were there.
Yeah, the main job of the Men in Black was number one, to maintain authority, absolute control and authority. And that was one of the reasons actually that I got together with John, because John wanted to make up for some of his past. And John had it set to, and he chose Palin because the governor of Alaska is briefed and debriefed on national security, because Alaska is our closest point to Russia. And so he was going to put me in charge of Homeland Security. And that would have been good, but not making a deal with the deep state, etc. And the Men in Black, they were fooling around with the MK Ultra, mind control. And matter of fact, Men in Black were the ones who would primarily slip into different areas. And when the whole thing started with LSD and stuff like that, they gave 24 families LSD, and those families did not volunteer to be guinea pigs. Changed their life forever. And they were the ones, the Men in Black, basically, and that was basically part of my star. This here, if you can see this kind of star, whoop.
Yeah.
You see that star?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the star is the same star that's in the halls of the CIA. Yeah. The sword is a two-edged sword because in internal affairs, it cuts both ways. Either side does wrong, it'll cut you. The pansy on top, I asked them about the pansy on top. They said because people walk by pansies every day and never notice them, and we do our job unnoticed. So that's why they had Men in Black, basically in darkness, unnoticed, and they were supposed to be doing everything unnoticed, in secret, and they could do anything they wanted. And then they would just report what they did and what the outcome was. But they also use them to intimidate others to keep them silent. Because believe me, when I was at MIB, I used to have, if I, let's say I wanted to keep you silent, I had an engraver and I had a 9mm dum-dum or wad cutter. I would engrave your name on it. I would see you in a bar and I would give you this necklace with that bullet on it. And I would tell you there's another one out there and nobody knows when it's going to be delivered.
Yeah.
And you would get the message.
I noticed that about Men in Black, that they were very cryptic with their message, but you got the point of what.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And it was usually they were going to take out your family or something
Yeah.
like.
And part of that was because they rehearsed passing lie detector tests. Then you go to them and you say, you threatened me, you were going to kill me. No, I didn't. I could pass the lie detector test. I didn't threaten you. I gave you a gift. I'm not lying. The message with the gift was clear, but they rehearsed various ways to avoid lie detector tests, showing anything, etc., and being able to pass. And they were hard and cold.
Miesha, I want to show Noel some video clips. So this is like some classic MIB, right? So you see someone wearing a black hat, right, and a black suit, and they describe these people, Noel, as like really white skin. They have to wear glasses because maybe they have gray eyes underneath them. What's your thoughts on that? These type of people.
A lot of your Men in Black would basically stay out of the limelight. They didn't want to be seen a lot, so they couldn't be identified. So a lot of it was basically just a lack of sun giving them any kind of a tan. Now, with me, when I was in, actually, I was somewhat white because the English genes are dominant, and so I would go out and tan, and I didn't fear being mixing in different places, because they also called me a man of 1,000 faces. I could change my appearance and people wouldn't recognize me. And I could do a French dialect, or an accent. I could do Spanish. I could do three different dialects of German. And I could dye my hair, put on glasses, and all of a sudden, instead of being Noel Benoist, ja, ich bin Heinrich von Berchtesgaden. Can you speak English? Ich spreche Deutsch. Macht nichts. Fuchsig, hey?
Sprachen de Deutsch.
Yeah, and people wouldn't think I was the same person.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's move on here. So,
Can I?
yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Can I ask a question that goes on to that MIB? So what am I understanding also is that there are some MIBs that have, shall we say, they're hybrids of
nowadays. Nowadays, in the beginning, back in the 60s, they really didn't get much into that, and they were fooling around with it, but there was way too many mess ups. But the ETs started basically working with hybrids on their own planet, and they had then agreements. So the first ETs, we helped the first one basically give him equipment so he could communicate with his planet and they could come pick him up. So then they figured we were a pretty good group to get together with. But then that alliance and the absolute power of 1947, that just went to the heads of everybody involved. And I told them, I said, how true the words, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's one of the reasons we must always, at all times, have checks and balances on power. I didn't even want the power I had without checks and balances. That's why I told him, I said, hey, man, I don't want absolute power. Maybe I get mad one day and boom, I cause World War III because I'm mad at Russia or something, or lose my head or something. I said, no, man, we need some checks and balances. I did not want absolute power.
But the question was, let's say, what percentage could have been hybrids? Not back then, but when they accomplished the whole hybrid program within the shadow government.
They actually, I don't think that the hybrid program was just really hitting the success rate about between 72 and 74.
Okay.
So I was like moving into the 70s.
Okay. So like in
Yeah.
the 78 when I was having what I think interaction with him, and they weren't well, both I didn't really see MIB aliens. Just knew about, or felt that I knew about them, I should say. My interaction was not met with men in suits, but more the ones that you talked about being
Right. The ETs, etc.
well,
yeah, and you can pick up on it.
being in cover, in their cover.
Yeah.
So,
Undercover.
but they talk the same way as the Men in Black. And I also did get chased in the late 70s, what I consider chase followed by what I considered men that were not human. When I did see them through the window of the car. So I'd like to know, what percentage would you happen to think might be have the hybrid, or maybe they're just plain aliens? I don't know.
Yeah, so some of them are. I mean, there's been just plain aliens too.
Okay.
If they're going after a person basically to eliminate them, they don't care if an alien goes after them because they plan on that person never talking. There was a gal that was fighting against nuclear power. Oh man, I'm trying to remember her name. And see, I had a week of missing time. They messed me over with names. But
Me
one of the nuclear power deals, and this gal, they ran her off the road basically and killed her. And I remember Love Canal or something, but that wasn't it. Or maybe her name was Love.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, and I can't think of her name.
Yeah, they even did a movie on it.
Yes, they did.
Did
Yeah.
Karen Silkwood?
Yeah, Silkwood, I think that.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was November 74. She became contaminated with plutonium.
Yeah. See,
Okay.
and that's another reason that some of them are here, because the neutron bomb, plutonium, and stuff like that. Some of these explosives, they were afraid that we would use because there's one that they know of now, and it basically eats energy. And if they use that one, they could turn Earth into a black hole.
Mm.
That's the thing with the black holes. The black holes eat energy that comes into them. And
Wow, it's like a similarity.
that's from mistakes of old, you might say, Yeah. But yeah, they've got various steps, and each one would have their position. Some of it is depending upon how they come out. Like with me, I was just me or whatever, but yet I had all of this going for me. And a lot of it was spiritually, mentally, etc. And I had experiences since I was like 5 years old. And so they could use me just anywhere, anytime. So I was the ideal guy for DC, advisor to 5 presidents and all over the world, And I knew how to be unnoticed, be invisible, etc. I could be the normal, likable guy. And the thing is, what a lot of people don't realize, that normal, really super normal, super likable guy is, you got about a 90% chance he's connected, or she. Because those are the ones they pick and make offers they can't refuse. Now, you want an offer you can't refuse? We're going to give you $1 trillion. We're going to take care of your whole family for their entire life. Or you can have 7 gravestones. Which do you want?
Usually it's like in a Vatican bank account, right? They'll give you, we'll give you 300 million or Vatican.
Yeah.
You just shut up. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's what I always say. We have the best government money can buy. I don't know. It's not Not funny.
Yeah.
But wow, thank you, Miesha. Let me finish the bio, please. Let me get through this. Okay. So we have so we talked about January 6th. So reportedly received numerous eyewitness accounts alleging voters. Oh shoot, we're not allowed to talk about this on YouTube. Voters were instructed to we got to be careful what we say, but we can say, um, Noel, can you comment about that election? But just be very cryptic, please.
Okay. Well, the militias across the U.S. wanted me to lead the militias, and at that time, and this was around about 75, something like that, I think it was. They wanted me to go ahead and take over as like the general of all the militias, and they wanted to go ahead and seize every government office and every government building, and refuse to give them up until things that, because I admitted some of the stuff to them and some of the stuff that had gone on. They wanted to seize the buildings and everything, refused to give them up until basically the other side surrendered. And I told them, guys, that would probably be a civil war. And more Americans died in the Civil War than in all of the wars that followed. And I said, let me work on trying to get some cooperation with the right presidents and the right congressmen and senators who will work with us. And that's one reason I started targeting different people who maybe had a little bit of a guilt and they would like to make up for stuff they did. John McCain was an ideal target because of his prisoner of war stuff and everything. And he definitely wanted to make up for it. And so I knew he'd be a good candidate. And then they had moved the academy, the military intelligence, to Fort Huachuca. So it was all in the right area. And so I said, we're in a prime area. Let me work on it this way. And they said, well, you lead us. And I said, no, because that way, if we go to court, I've got to testify or take the fifth, and that doesn't look good. I said, I will be your chaplain. I'll be the national chaplain, and all you leaders can talk to me as your chaplain, and I'll tell you what I feel. I can reflect what I know. I can't advise you as far as the law is concerned because I don't have a law license, but I had to study law, and I've got more or less like a degree in it. I've done a lot of my own legal work. But I said that way, then when it comes to court, parishioner and minister privilege is like doctor, patient, attorney, client. So then I don't have to talk. See, and I can give you guys what I think, and then you can take it and go from there. Well, and I gave this in sworn testimony to the Supreme Court, and I gave them my credentials so they'd know that they were hearing the truth. I said, now, number one, I said, I'm telling you the truth, and I'm putting my life in your hands, and so that you know I'm telling you the truth, and here's my credentials. And I told them, I said, I told our militia groups that the people have the right to overthrow or abolish any portion of government that becomes corrupt. That is our constitutional right. I said, don't be like BLM and all of those guys, Antifa and that, and harm a bunch of innocent people. I said, all of you, go to DC, tell Mike Pence and Trump that Noel sent you, and be peaceful, but demand that the Electoral College be on hold and that all of our witnesses and evidence be reviewed because we are positive we can prove election interference and corruption. And then just peacefully protest. And I told them, fill DC. I said, Antifa and those guys get 100, 150. I said, put 1 million, put 2 million in DC. And I told the Supreme Court, you want the guy that filled DC on January 6th? Here's my address. I'm the guy. You know? And they went, and that's why Trump said, they had a meeting with them, and they said, be peaceful. And the guards at first were letting them in. And the radical Democrats, the leaders, didn't say anything at first because they wanted a bunch of them in there. But I saw the advertisements from Soros, $200 plus expenses just to go be a body. $300 if you participate and do stuff, $500 if you'll wear a Trump T-shirt, stir up violence so Trump can be blamed. And if anybody can prove they shot somebody with a Trump T-shirt on, they get a bonus. That was straight from Soros, and I saw the flyer. They thought I was a rebel, so, I would join in. And so the real guy that stirred up violence was Soros.
Wow. Yeah, wow, Miesha, that's wild. Yeah, we've always suspected. I was there January 6th, and I was watching the people go up into the Capitol building higher and higher on the bleachers, right? And I was like, no, don't do it. It's a trap. They'll close the door and arrest all of you. And well, eventually they did, right? But there was an op that day, right? So we had some people. Black ops dressed in civilian clothing, Trump hats, right? And they snuck into the Capitol building and they went to Nancy Pelosi's office and stole her laptop. And then in it, they found like evidence of like Chinese collusion, right? Noel, have you heard this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I told Trump that the so-called bat soup in China was not bat soup. That's not what did it. I told him, I said, I've warned everybody that part of their 200-year plan was to cause plagues, etc. And I told him we had COVID in germ warfare when I was in. We thought about releasing it in
be careful
Vietnam.
Of the words you talk about,
But we didn't know what it would do to our guys. And I finally told the guys, we go out of the lab, we leave our lab clothes inside, we walk through the steam room, we come out the other side, and we never got COVID. Steam. I mean, what's wrong with that? Can we put the two together? Let's steam it, whatever. But so I told them, test the soup, and if you do not have markers showing where those bats are from, it is lab produced. And I told him, I said, that was sent from our labs by the Democratic leaders over to China, and then they brought it back.
Okay, let's fix this. Oh my goodness. Okay, Miesha, I think you go there. Okay. Oh wow, that's yeah. So we know this, but let's. Honestly, I think a lot of the censorship has ended because Michael Jaco is on YouTube now. But let's push forward. Thank you, Miesha. Do you have any questions about that?
Yeah, it's true. Do you believe that the CV itself, and even maybe, and of course the CV jabby jabs, were done for the RNA, DNA changing, transhumanism, changing us so that we connect more with 5G and all the other psychotronic weaponry?
The plan behind the COVID stuff was number one to get people to take
CV. I called it CV, so maybe
CV.
Yeah.
Oh, CV. Okay. The plan behind the plan behind plagues that they want to release, basically, was that you remember they were talking about blood transfusions, they were talking about these special shots and everything, and they've got like a little microchip that they could put in the back of your neck with less irritation than a mosquito bite. And they've made that small enough to actually put it in the blood. And they wanted to get those in the blood of especially various targets because they could tell where they are 24/7. They could tell what they're doing. They could tell. And we, back in the 60s, we had a computer that could handle one function per second for every man, woman, and child on Earth. And we had 6 of them in tandem. So that's one function per 1/6 of a second for every man, woman, and child on Earth. And that computer chip could communicate with that computer. Because we found out long ago, matter of fact, remember the movie War Games? That was a security leak. It happened. And our computer it triggered failsafe, and they barely caught it in time to kill it and bring it back. And so Joint Chiefs of Staff were all up there and everything, and they asked the computer that, why did you trigger failsafe? And the computer said, because the Russians were coming. And they said the Russians weren't coming. Why did you trigger failsafe? And it said, the Russians were coming. They were launching missiles. We had to attack and knock everything out of the air. And it said, that is not true. And so then they said, you are programmed to act on factual information. What factual information did you act on that made you think the Russians were coming? And it whistled and whirred. Pretty soon it shut down. Nobody could bring it up. And so then next day, everybody's in having coffee. All of a sudden it comes up again. So they program in, do you have our answer? It came back, said yes. So what's the answer? I had a dream last night that the Russians were coming and I thought it was real, so I triggered failsafe. They go back in. You are not programmed to act on dreams. You are programmed to act on facts. What facts did you act on? The Russians are going to hit us one day anyway, so we might as well hit them first, and it shut down.
Wow.
Yep, shut off.
Was that computer have anything related to the HAL 9000 built in Urbana, Illinois, in the 2001 movie?
They're all interconnected. Matter of fact, they found out stuff that they used on that computer, and guess where they found it out from? Remember the old Commodore 64? Well, they decided to run an experiment. They asked the Commodore 64 a question that was only known by the answer was only known by the computer in Alaska, right? And we're not in Alaska, we're in Arizona. So they ask it this question, and they wait and they have coffee, and oh, okay, it's not going to come up with an answer. It took about 24 hours. But next day they're in and say, well, what else can we do and find out about this Commodore 64? All of a sudden the 64 came alive. The 64 gave them their answer. It found a communication link through electrical and whatever to where it actually was able to communicate with the main computer and get the answer. So they found out there's like airways and just all kinds of different ways that computers can actually communicate with one another. And that's when they found out and basically started thinking about artificial intelligence and stuff like that. But, and I warned them, I said, guys, you know, I mean, the movie where the computers take over the world because people are the problem, it's kind of like, hello, people, wake up.
And didn't I know Jimmy Payne says he's been to the future through Montauk, and he said that the whole Terminator movie was a documentary. It was August 29th, 2027. But things have been changed, right? Because they go into the future, they can find out what happens, and then they can put firewalls in, right? Fail safes. They can shut down.
Well, and I've got a deal on my iPad. I'll have to give you one time. A guy from the future, around 3,000, I think it was 3,150 or 3,300, somewhere in there, showed up in our time over in the New York area, and he was interviewed, etc. And I've got stuff about him and stuff that came out about the interview and stuff. And it actually fits the biblical timing of 1,000-year reign, because we're in transitional period. There's a transitional period between each major segment. We're in a transitional period, and about 3,150 to 3,300, he said they came from the north and it was all over. And time is no more. And that fits the Bible, because heaven is to the north, you know, and when the Lord and the angels come, time is no more. And so and he just appeared in a store not wearing clothing like we have today. And he describes how they were living in bubbles. They live off the earth because the whole earth is like needed to produce food and stuff like that. And they get their food and water free, and everybody lives in these like bubbles that float in the air, you know? Yeah. So that stuff is already happening and coming into our world.
Can I ask a question about Project Looking Glass? What do you know about that?
The glass, it's more or less like a glass where you can kind of look into the future
No, it's
and see things. Or
Project Looking Glass, yeah, but it's
oh,
not. It's a
yeah,
glass. It's like I think it's a machine or
It's got like multiple rings within rings.
something. Yeah,
yeah, that's that's the one though. The looking into the future,
yeah.
and they called it Looking Glass because you would look through like a viewer and ask questions, etc., and you could see some of the inner workings of it and stuff like that. And actually, it's a miracle I remembered that because they messed me up with names.
Mm-hmm.
But when you mentioned Project Looking Glass, I just got like this picture. That's got to be the future thing, yeah, where they try to look and they're trying to regulate and make sure nothing bad happens, but they're the ones who decide what's bad and what's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
So it's actually about total control all the way going on.
And whose is that? I mean, basically, who's running that one?
Actually, it started with the MJ12, the 12, and 3 or 4 of those 12 died the first year or two. They used like 4 respected generals that Truman respected, and they said, hey, these generals will be part of the 12. And then they had their finance people. The whole group started getting together and sharing information way back. The Illuminati, the Mormons, the Knights Templar, the Bilderbergs, the Rockefellers, the Monroes, the Chrysler Group, and all of them. All of these super rich, powerful people would meet and actually, what's his name? He had the newspaper, Hearst. Actually, Hearst was one of the good guys, and he wanted to influence things for good and everything. And Hearst Castle, and he did some stuff. He kept his people during the Depression. He kept all of his people on staff and paid all the way through the Depression. And so he was one of the good guys. But they basically wiped out these generals and stuff. And then, of course, Hearst is eventually worked off to the side, and the bad group just kept getting more and more power. And that's why, see, the enemy, and this is something people got to realize, there's real spiritual good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I've dealt with it. I've had legs grow. I've called people back into their body and had pronounced dead wake up again and everything. And it's spiritual is kind of like a pure energy field. So we got negative energy and positive energy. And everything starts in the spirit. The physical we see is the evidence of the current defeat, victory, or battle that's ongoing. That's what we see. And if energy molecules are slowed down to the right point, then what we see is the table in front of me, or we see this computer. If you can speed up those energy molecules, you could make it dissolve, vanish. When it goes into the energy stream, time is irrelevant. That's why when they did the Philadelphia experiment and the ship vanished, and then they're trying to get it back, when it finally reappeared, some of the people had ancient clothing on, some had Western clothing on, some had futuristic clothing on. A couple of them were half in the bulkhead, half out of the bulkhead. And so that scared them because they realized they really didn't have a way to control it. So they had to learn a lot more about it. So that's where then the looking glass and stuff, trying to look so they could control and see, hey, if we do this, what does this looking glass tell us is going to happen, etc., to try to get forecasting and get more information so they would make the right moves instead of the wrong moves.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, anything? Let's see here. Let's go on there. Okay, he says that there were certain political groups orchestrated violence, encouraging protest and Trump-themed apparel to discredit President Trump, alleging coordination between radical factions. He has brought these concerns public attention as early as the late 60s and I guess that's you, Noel, right? You have brought these concerns since the late 60s, early 70s via a collaboration with legislators. He's engaged in sustained community charitable activities since September 79, focusing on support for disadvantaged individuals. And so, how's the charity going and the finances?
Well, actually, it's really a trip in faith, about the best way I could describe it. And I just don't worry about anything. It's kind of like I figured, okay, I had an experience with God, and I knew it, and I actually saw things that the prophets have seen. And I didn't read the prophetic parts of the Bible. As a child, matter of fact, God gave me his name. I'm a child, and I wake up one morning and I hear good morning. And I go, John, my best friend Jimmy, John to my brother. And I thought, man, I must have been just waking up dreaming or something. So I laid back down and I'm looking at the closet by the wall. And then I hear good morning. I'm up again and John, Jimmy, you guys playing a trick on me, I'll get you. And so nothing. So I lay back down and I'm looking up, and it was just like the Bible talks about the cloud that glowed by night and it was a cloud by day. It just came down and I felt so much love. I just knew I didn't have anything to fear. I just felt this amazing love. And I'm going, oh, who are you? And it comes back, God. Oh, hi, God. I'm Noel. And then I said, well, actually, I got a second name, Benoist. You got a second name? Uh-huh. What's your second name? Jesus. Oh, and then I just felt like I had to tell the whole truth and say everything. And so I said, well, actually, I got three names. I got a first name, middle name, and last name. My last name is Benoist. In English, they say Benoist. You got a third name? He said, yeah. I said, what's your third name? He said, people call me Christ. Oh, hi, God, Jesus Christ. I'm Noel Benoist. Why are you talking to me? He said, because I put you on earth to serve me. And he said, I put you in a birth where people would know that it was me. It took God to do it. Oh, okay. He said, your mother and your dad were told that your mother should never get pregnant again. And your dad was told if he gets your mother pregnant again, he as good as put his 45 to her head and pulled the trigger, because doctors guaranteed that you and your mother would die if she got pregnant again. And I'm like, oh, really? He said, yeah. He said, but I put you in her womb, and your father and your mom are divorced, and I'm going to be to you a father, and you're going to be to me a son. Oh, okay. Just a minute. I think I said, I got to go to the bathroom. And I did. So I go in, I go to the bathroom, and I come out of the bathroom. Hey, Mom. What, son? I understand that you and Dad were told if you got pregnant again after John was born, that you and I were both supposed to die. John, are you talking to your brother? And she pulled a leather clothes brush out, and she's going to give him a wailing. And she had a leather clothes brush fit our behind just perfect. And he said, no, Mom, I didn't say anything. She said, don't lie to me. I'll make it a double. And so then I said, no, Mom, he didn't tell me anything. And she said, well, where did you get this from? And I said, I was afraid to tell her I'm talking to somebody they can't see. So I said, it just came to me. She said, all right, John, Noel, kitchen table. So we go to the kitchen table. She said, I'm going to tell you two a story, and you've got to listen to the whole story, but it's a story that you cannot tell anybody else. And then you've got to listen to the story as to why you can't tell anybody else. So, okay. So she told us about Benoist. The name Benoist came from the tribe of Benjamin. He took Ben for Benjamin, added the OIST, and they used to put the vineyards around the towns in Israel as a line of defense because the enemy would have to cut their way through or zigzag through, and the left-handed archers, the Benjamites, would pick them off with their arrows. And so that's where the name Benoist first came from, 70 AD. And she said, every Benoist is related to Benjamin and to one another. Then in the late 1400s, early 1500s, they took the S out, but the Benoist wine family had the right to keep the S, and that separated us as almost like royalty. And she said, but you can't tell anybody because they call us the Jews. And she told me that her ancestry was from Asher. And she said, they call Jews the Christ killers. And she said, then the first Benoit came over to the US was French Foreign Legion. He ended up siring Crazy Horse, and then he married a Lakota Sioux princess, because with the Lakota Sioux, if a woman doesn't want her husband anymore, they can get a new husband. And the one that where he sired Crazy Horse, she wanted a hunter. She didn't want a war chief, and he was a war chief. They made him a war chief. So she didn't want to worry about her husband. And then those two genes came together again in my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother. So she told us all our history, and she said, but they call Jews the Christ killers, and Indians are lower than a dog. So if they know that you're half Jewish and half Indian or whatever, and you're related to Crazy Horse, that would destroy her beauty shop and Dad's insurance business. So then oh boy, now I got to hide this. And so then I go back in my room, and the next morning I get visited again. So I said, I don't know if I should talk to you because Mom says we killed you. And he said, you didn't kill me. And I said, well, no, we didn't kill you, but our people killed you. Are you a ghost come back for revenge? He said, no. He said, I'm not back for revenge. I'm going to be to you a father. You're going to be to me a son, and I'm going to raise you and teach you things you need to know. And, well, I don't know. I'll have to think about this. And then all of a sudden, clear as a bell with a lot of love, I heard, go to church. John, we got to go to church. My brother says, what's a church? I don't know. All I know is we got to go to church. How do you know we got to go to church? I didn't want to say God's talking to me again. I don't know. I just know we got to go to church. Well, let's go ask Mom what a church is and what they do. So we go ask Mom. And she was a good Jewess, so she had to separate. She said, well, they teach you about God there, and they teach you about Jesus. Well, right away, I knew we had to go to church. So that's how I ended up in church learning more. But then I became the prodigal son. God warned me, but the Peter syndrome got me. I know you too well. And so I became the prodigal son. But God used that because that allowed me to become his undercover agent and learn more about the enemy. And the thing that people got to realize is religion, church as a religion is not good. Any religion is not good. It's about control. But church and learning the picture language and what those pictures portray in the Bible, learning the spirit, the heart, and character of what it can do, that is where the diamonds and the gold is. That's where, then that's how I've been able to help other people. People got delivered from drugs, dead, came back, legs have grown. A little girl had a knee that was on the side of her leg. And this gets me because I did a little Bible study and the love of the Lord and everything. But people have got to remember, God had a temper also, and God had a limit. You know, when things got real bad, he flooded everything. And there's more than every nation has evidence of floods. And Jesus got angry at him, and he made a lethal weapon and went through and whipped him out of the temple. He didn't like the hypocrisy and all that. And but God love that basically helps others do right and that calls them to do right. And basically, it's a living example, and others can then get information and what they need off of our example and off of what we learn or what we realize. And they might put two or three things from two or three people together and realize something totally different that's for them. Because God made millions of different people. I tell people, if I walked into a room and there's 10,000 people, and they all look like me, talk like me, walk like me, and everything, that would drive me nuts, you know? And so, as an experience, as a spiritual walk and learning and growing as a human being, becoming the type of person that God wants us to be, that's where the whole thing is. That's why he gave many different paths to reach him. The Buddha said, hey, there's a higher plane, there's a better life, and I want people to reach that better life. And what did he say? He said, if you can reach the point of nirvana, now the point of nirvana is the perfect state of nothingness. The Bible lets us know self is enmity against God. Well, then I've got to empty self out. I've got to reach nirvana, the perfect state of nothingness. And Buddha said, if you do that, you can tap into the source of all creation. And the Bible lets us know God is the source of all creation. So
Yes, Noel.
the pictures are much the same if people will look at the spiritual things to grow in and what to achieve. And the thing that for me is to achieve the best spiritual being I can achieve for God, my creator. Get me out of the way, get God, my creator, in the lead. And that's why with my faith walk and my 79 till now, I'm not a millionaire. And actually, I've spent millions helping other people. But actually, that's one person asked me one time. Well, God asked me one time, what would be the greatest thing for me if I had any gift that I wanted? And I said, I'd like to just fill heaven that much fuller. I said, not to be high and mighty, but I said, I love you. And if I could give you more souls than anybody ever has, I would love to do that. And another guy one time, an earthly being, asked me what I would love to have. He said, what would you do like with $50 million? I said, man, I would have a ball finding people in need and helping them out. And not just give it to them, but help them help themselves so that once they get to a certain point, they can keep going.
All right, Noel. Let's go back to some questions. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I know you're. Maybe we can end this video in a prayer. But does that sound like a good idea? You want to do a prayer? But
I'm in for whatever you guys want to do. We can do 2 or 3 videos or whatever.
okay. All right. Well, I had a few more questions, but let's get it over to Miesha. I think she's
Yeah,
ready.
because I do have a session I've got to get off to here very soon. I wanted to ask, you mentioned something about the Majestic. The reason they called it the Majestic is because of the magic factor. Now, in my life, as born from an MK Ultra family, my father was very big into the alchemy of the Rosicrucian, and that's what started him, I believe, a negative sect of the Rosicrucian.
Yeah.
So that's what started him on his magic, and he became a magician and stuff like that. So I'd like to know what was their part in, and who did they study through? I mean, like Aleister Crowley, like him, or who?
It was a progression thing, because they would, matter of fact, that's where you get the thing learned from history. So they basically studied different characters in history, and like Merlin the magician, and so they would study, okay, Merlin magician, this made him great. And then you've got King David, who loved the people and the people loved him. So they would take that character and say, okay, it was almost like a witch in a cauldron with various ingredients, and they're mixing it together for a final solution that will go the whole end, And they learned what Hitler did with accusations, with fear, and all that. See? And so, like me, I learned a lot from, and then I designed Smear and Fear for them, but I designed it to be used against real enemies to make them doubt one another, because if you can make them doubt one another, they start making mistakes and they're easier to conquer. See? And with them, they took magic one extra. That's why they used magic as part of the name, but then they used majestic as the godly side. And so they're not only into magic, They literally said they are God for this world.
Okay.
That's a quote,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they literally said people are too stupid to decide their own destiny. We must decide it for them.
Mm.
The end justifies the means, and we decide both end and means. And that's where they said we orchestrate wars. And I said, why? I said, you're taking our brightest and our best and killing them. They said, it's good for population control and it's good for economy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's our brightest and best going on. They said, the only brightest and best who really need to live is ours. And they told me, you've got a ticket in the underground. The underground America exists. There's underground highways and railways and cities and places to grow things like underground farms and everything. The tunnel boring machine, people look up TBM,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what's been building it. That's what caused the towers hum. See, so they said, you've got a ticket for the underground. I said, well, what about my wife and my family? They said, no, just you, only the chosen. So they plan on just theirs, the chosen surviving,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody else can fry on the surface.
So they use secret well, I know that the CIA was really doing a lot of research in magic and doing finding magic information, magic curses, all kinds of magic things. So I just figured probably the same thing going on with them.
CIA became actually after the Kennedy assassination, and then the mob connections came out. Then they said, whoa, wait a minute, man. People are getting upset about mob connections. The mob was their hit team when it all formed and started. The main mob guy of all the mobs was one of the 12. And that's why they paid Lucian Sardis, a French paid assassin, Sardis, and he was the shooter behind the fence with a 9mm sniper rifle. 9mm sniper bullet has a bubble in it. And so Oswald was basically duped to actually hit Kennedy in the shoulder. They said there's a mic and we're testing security and it's got to show that you would have had a bullseye or you can't be a sniper. And so he hits him in the shoulder. Kennedy goes forward. Now you've got a flesh shot from the grassy knoll. The 9mm sniper bullet goes in through the flesh, but when it hits the skull, it explodes because of the bubble. So now you got the magic trick, people looking at the suppository where shots came from and smoke. And then you've got people looking in front of Kennedy for a ballistics of entry to the skull this way with backlash. And that's why Kennedy's head went back and forth a couple times, because it got hit a couple times.
Also, why Jackie is running the opposite way, right? She's trying to run away, get out of the car instead of going for cover like a natural. That would be a natural instinct to hide under. Go down.
Yeah, and Lucian Sardis was the guy with Secret Service credentials that the cop interviewed. And he died a while back, and he admitted that he was the guy behind the fence, and he told him he bit the 9mm bullet casing and tossed it into some high grass at the grassy knoll, figuring it would make it. They went with a metal detector, and they found the 9mm casing with a bite mark. He saved that for his ace in the hole, and if they did anything or came after him, he just kept telling them, I've got an ace in the hole that'll hang all of you. And he had people that knew about it. I did somewhat the same stuff I found. I'd make 1,000 copies and just put it all over the earth. People that, if anything happens to me, make sure this hits the media.
Okay. Noel,
and CIA became their hitman, their hit team. So they were the ones basically dosing people with drugs, killing them, poison, LSD. Yeah, CIA. They started recruiting snipers and stuff into CIA and building their own hit team.
Yeah, I believe it. Okay, so hey, Noel, I think we might need to do a part 2. I think Miesha has to go.
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay. We'll follow up on the next show. We can talk more about your relationship with Kennedy, how you knew him, met him. Also, we'll go into the hunt of Red October. That was you, right? That was based off of you? Okay. What else would you like to explore in the next episode? Anything else?
Yeah, because the hunt for Red October was off a true story. And then Kennedy, and that whole thing of what happened there. Well, then also, basically God placed me in just the right position to get together with Reagan and with Bush. And Bush tried to do the right thing, but he messed up. So we could talk about that. How did what Bush did that messed things up,
Well,
and that was actually the open door. Yes, but what Bush did, doing it the DC way, opened the door to weaponize all the stuff that got weaponized.
okay. Yeah, I would like to learn more, especially because right now we have warships about to invade Venezuela, supposedly to take out the drug lords, right? But then our own apparatuses are bringing the drugs in, so they're trying to get rid of the competition.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's exactly it. It's all about control. They
yes,
use what sounds like a good thing, but the ultimate motive and their ulterior motive is they are the only good thing. Therefore, they have to have absolute control.
okay. Thank you. All right, Misha, you want to go ahead and in final comments? Why don't go ahead and mute yourself?
Okay. Well, I had one other question. Do you know too much about the Robert Kennedy assassination?
I know absolutely everything about the Kennedys. I know how they got John, how they got Robert. I knew Ted Kennedy was going to hit Chappaquiddick 5 days before it happened,
Mm-hmm.
and we could talk about that too. The whole Kennedy story.
Yeah, Saran.
Yeah,
Hey, well, let's say that for next show.
a little bit of involvement in that. I was part of. I was at the Ambassador Hotel as a volunteer per se, but it was part of the MK Ultra program. So
Yeah,
yeah, so I want to know what I can because they wiped us completely, so I don't have much memories and everything.
yeah. And that group of females, did you hear the fact that just before that, Mary Jo got a large payment of money? Mary Jo Kopechne?
Uh huh.
Yeah, she got a big payday. She was the one that was in the car for Ted Kennedy. If I got her name right, I think
Oh, that's for the
Mary
Ted
Jo.
Kennedy. That's for Ted Kennedy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she was in the car,
Name.
and she got a big payday just before that, and so that's part of that whole story. Yeah.
Okay. So you want me to say a little bit about myself and my group, all right?
Yeah, go ahead and plug yourself.
Okay, so and I'm a certified hypnotherapist. I do specialize in trauma release hypnosis and helping people with secret space programming, the MK Ultra. Because I was MK Ultra, I just found how hard it was to survive and not have someone to share and talk with. So I have support groups for people who are MK Ultra, Secret Space Program, milabs, targeted individuals. I have like 3 groups a week, and at different times. Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays as well. And so these are really important places for people. And they're through Zoom, of course, so anybody can come to them. And there's so many different topics. Every topic you can possibly imagine, from the ET experience to the hybrids and all of it. I have individual groups, even a spiritual group for the connections of connecting with our higher selves, our galactics, our angelics, Jesus, everyone. So that's that, and they can find me at starseedawakening.org. Of course, this was on my last book, You Can Handle the Truth. It's on Amazon, or it's also on my website. And I also have a couple of other books. One is a galactic book where I help people understand and find out what their galactic planets of origin are, what their missions are, and the characteristics. With my oracle cards, I also do readings to help people find that out as well. So that's me, and they can find me on Facebook under this name. That is not my last name per se. My last name has a T in it, but that's okay that you have it there as Miesha Johnson. But that's how you can find me on Facebook, is through Miesha Johnson.
That gave me a quick question.
Yes.
What was your first year in MK Ultra?
My when I actually was brought into service
Yeah.
or the programming, because it started when I was 3. But
Yeah. Actual service.
67 when I had the missing 8-month period of time, including a wedding that I didn't have a memory of, but it did actually happen with
Wow.
my handler, and
They,
they took me to Seattle and the eyes wide shut kind of experiences, and then San Francisco, and then MIT, different places all over the world.
I'm getting Jesus bumps all over because I had to ask that because see, 67 is when they pulled me in, and they talked about the special program. They wanted me to go to that program, but all the other stuff started breaking loose, so I went to the other stuff. And they wanted me to go to that program, the San Francisco deal, and from San Francisco to Seattle.
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
We should
So
talk.
same timeline basically. Except I branched off the other way because of the stuff that happened.
Yeah. I'll be darned. Yeah. And
Isn't that fantastic?
that's
Huh.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And they had mentioned a gal at the time that I would meet this talented gal, had a lot of the same talents and stuff.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if that was me or not, but yeah.
I probably was because 67 they weren't really putting a big field out yet.
Well, I actually made a mistake. It's 68 is when they took me because they had to wait till I was 18.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
67. It started through my last year.
Yeah.
My last year in high school, they started accessing me, and
There you
then
go.
into the disappearing act from the college.
Yep.
And then that went through till about 72, and then oddly enough, I'd like to say that my whole life from that point on was a big blank mishmash, weird
Yep.
spotted memories. Don't even remember my children and their births or my real marriage or any of that stuff. So
Yeah.
really,
And see, it was Yep. 68 or 7 was when they brought me in, and then 68 was basically when they made me a major, and that's when I became seat 13. Then I was a full-blown major, battlefield commission, and then I was made seat 13. So I mean, we were just like interwoven in many ways.
yeah, I do remember a Navy ship in San Francisco. No, well, yes, it was. It was San Francisco. That I don't know. There's just some kind of crazy memory about a Navy ship in San Francisco. Not too much to it. Just that there was a guy named Gator. You didn't know anybody named Gator, did you?
Name sounds familiar.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah.
We have to talk. I'd like to talk.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Does radar?
Talking in this age.
Yeah. Yeah. Does Radar Devices Inc. sound familiar? Radar Devices Inc.
Well, I know I got a tour of the ship.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they were doing special stuff with the ship, and a friend of mine, Larry Anderson, invented the stuff they were putting in the nose and the bow of the ship.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Not a lot of memory there though.
Yeah, it was super special stuff for navigation and war zone stuff. Yeah.
Cool. So
Yep.
you served your time on a Navy ship mostly.
No, I was the troubleshooter. They sent me everywhere. I hit DC for the DC riots, and I was at the first hijacking when the first Palestinians hijacked the plane. I wanted to get our guys as close as possible. Every super big problem that happened from say late '66 on into about '70, I was the troubleshooter on the spot.
Oh, so were you also then as a Ranger? Was that Vietnam? Did you do anything in Vietnam?
Well, I went through Ranger training. I basically accelerated a lot of programs because I was second or third week of OCS and smoking it, and that's why I taught myself 6 years of German in 6 weeks, and I could do that stuff.
So you
See,
weren't.
that's when they found the eidetic memory. Before that, it was a photographic memory,
Yeah.
And that's why I flunked the language aptitude test. But then I took Berlitz and Azimmel out of the library, and I played the records and just viewed the book as it was playing. And in 6 weeks, then I went out, 4 weeks actually, I went out in the Bavarian territory. I came back and I was 6 years fluent with German and everything. And I told them, I said, guys, I don't learn. I'm a slow reader, but I retain good. But I learn rapidly with audio visual.
Yeah.
I could watch the movie Ben-Hur and 2 years later recite every line in the movie.
Okay. Wow.
I
thank
did
you.
that with the kid on The Quick and the Dead. He had a line he was having a hard time saying, and I spoke his line to him under my breath, and he went, "Wow, Mountain, that's good." He said his line, and then after the thing, he said, "How did you do that?" I said, "I heard you say it the first time." He said, "You heard me say it the first time, and that was it?" I said, "Yeah. All I need once."
So that sounds like the alpha programming. That definitely sounds like the alpha
That's
program.
one of the reasons they wanted to take me up there and learn from me, etc., and get me into some of the alpha programming stuff too.
Yeah, because that's the program that makes those spies and makes you be able to have this eidetic memory and all of that. That's interesting.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep, yeah, because they were strictly with like your photographic memory at first,
Photographic.
and the eidetic memory came because of me in the 66 going into 67.
Yeah, ours was a photographic memory, and of course that was with the altars. So I just have one last question.
Yeah,
You have altars.
nothing to know about, but it might be the names. See, they wiped me out for names. I had a week of missing time.
Okay.
So if you describe it, then I might be able to say yes. But
Well, altars, having different, when your psyche was split as a child and splintered as a child, then they built altars within your mind and rooms in your mind and controlled your whatever you did through
oh,
the.
I had stuff like that similar going on, but with God building things in my spirit and in my mind.
Mm. Oh,
And
okay.
I experimented with mind over matter, and I actually made it work.
Oh.
And then God showed me. He said, if you use mind over matter, it'll drain you. You'll age rapidly. He said, if you use the evil side for mind over matter, it will drain you and destroy you. He said, if you use the good side for mind over matter, as I flow through you, you will flourish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was at a restaurant, and my brother's on my right, and I'm looking at this glass of water. All of a sudden, I could see 360 degrees. And boom, and then my brother knocked me off my chair almost. He said, "You see that?" I said, "What?" I felt like I had to go to the bathroom. My glass had gone 14, 15, 16 feet around, down the counter and around the corner, and it was sitting on the edge of the counter by the bathroom door. And I learned it's like I could put my essence into somebody or something.
I do have to leave because I've got to get a session ready. Okay, so I've got to get
Okay.
a whole nother
Thank you,
program.
Miesha.
Nice.
Love meeting you. Love you. Look forward to the next go round that we get together.
What's your website?
Okay, yes.
Website. What's your website?
starseedawakening.org.
Thank you. Everybody go there. Kind
They
of.
can also subscribe to the support groups and do get readings and things like that. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Amen. God bless.
God bless. How do we get out here? You can kick me out because I don't know how.
Just close the browser. Okay. All right. So it's just you and I now. So thank you, Noel. Why don't you go ahead and end this day with a short prayer? Maybe we should let's manifest
Amen.
a timeline where disclosure happens and maybe all the SSP veterans get healing and maybe get paid, or anybody else that deserves to get healing and paid.
Amen. Matter of fact, and I am always wide open to healing, and I've had healings happen. And when we do our event, anybody needs a major healing, show up. I've had terminal cancer healed, you name it. So, Father, we just pray right now that your Holy Spirit will move and the angels will move throughout homes and houses and people everywhere. And Lord, we know that we cannot defeat the enemy today without tapping into the spiritual power that you give us for the good side. Satan and his angels are fallen angels, and as a human, we are a piece of dust under his fingernail. But if we tap into you, if we let our loving God and powerful God flow through us, then Satan becomes a dust speck under our fingernail. So, Father, I'm praying that people are going to start realizing this, start blossoming as to who they are, not just as a physical being, but as a spiritual being, for all the right reasons, altruistic, selfless reasons. And Father, right now, touch some people, heal somebody from alcoholism. They're going to suddenly put that bottle down and they're just not going to want to drink anymore. Heal another person from smoking. They're going to go to smoke, and that cigarette, that cigar, is just they're going to put a rotten egg in their throat. It'll be that way every time. They'll put it down, and they're going to find out that it saved their life because they were developing lung cancer that is now easily treatable because they quit. And Father, just draw everybody you want to draw to the event and to each of these shows as we show them, and bless their home with your love and your protection and your peace. In Jesus' name, for your glory, Father, that agape love flowing, that all-consuming fire, I call on that to fall and produce these things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Jesus.
Hallelujah. Yeah. Thank you, Jesus. Okay. Great. So everybody, if I was a good salesperson, I would have told you multiple times already to buy your tickets. So yes, Noel is coming to the conference, and to get your ticket, go to supersoldiercon.com. We have a couples pass, includes lodging, so that one is going to go on till September 8th, and then the prices of the rooms start to go up after September 8th. So I recommend you get a couples pass. It includes two VIP tickets, so you can get all your meals. You can also get a VIP ticket just if you don't want to get the bring a friend. You can just we recommend you get the VIP because you have front row seating. You get all your meals and you get to sit next to Noel. So you can also go to healingsoulsurvivors.org and make a donation if you've really enjoyed this presentation, this interview. Please make a donation. Every little bit counts. We really appreciate everyone who does donate. We're looking for vendors still. We still have a few spots left, not many. So if you like to vend, contact us on the website, supersoldiercon.com. Now, many people have told me,
I plan on having one of the dark brown, light brown 200-year plan books that's a collector's item. I will have one of those there and one of the second edition copies, and we can have a raffle for that to help out the cause.
Yes.
And then I will sign the brown copy as the author's copy. It'll be one of the 40 author's copies available. And there's only 500 of those available throughout the world and only 40 author's copies.
Oh, wow. We're definitely going to get one of those. Thank you, Noel. That's amazing. So yeah, we will have a table for all the speakers. They have present their books. And so the event is between October 8th to the 12th. So the 8th is more of a meet and greet. I've already posted on the website a map of the venue so you can check out and join us. Between the Thursday to the Sunday, it's going to be 4 days of fun and lots of presentations. We have about 30 speakers. Then on Monday, we're probably going to go to Universal. I don't know how we're going to get all you guys in there, but if more of you buy tickets, it would really help support out the venue. And yeah, we're going to have a great time. Come join us in Orlando, Florida, this October 8th to the 12th. So I think that pretty much covers it. Go there now. Thank you. Noel, you have any other final comments?
Nope, just hope to see everybody there. And I know we're going to have a good time, spread some good information. And I believe part of it is really going to be an awakening that will be a movement to defeat the enemy and keep America safe.
Thank you. We're going to make America great again. Thank you all. Okay, everybody. Goodbye. We'll see you later.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you. Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you. We'll see you all later. Stay tuned for this special message from the Lifewave brand, the Lifewave Energy Patch. See you all later. Bye-bye.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode. Today, we have Lifewave brand partner Arthur Gross with us again today to discuss a fascinating product that's been making waves in the wellness and energy space in the life, and that is the Lifewave Energy Patch. Arthur, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hi, James. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on.
Great, thank you. So let's dive right in. Tell us exactly what is the Lifewave Energy Patch and how does it work?
The Lifewave Energy Patch is a two-patch system. It's a patch that you apply to the body, and it helps your body burn fat and turn it into energy.
Wow, that sounds incredible. So it's not like a supplement or something that enters the body.
That's correct, James. There's no drugs or anything that enters the body. Photobiomodulation is the process of light making change in the body. Much like the sun tells your body how to create vitamin D, the Lifewave patches do that with specific frequencies to bring on specific results.
That sounds fascinating. Can you share a bit about the science behind it?
Yes, there's been clinical studies done proving that the energy patch is to induce beta oxidation to burn fat and convert it into vital energy. There's more. It induces beta oxidation, increases ATP, cellular energy, engages natural energy field, improves clarity and motivation, supports physical activity, balances cognitive vitality, increases vital energy, supports metabolic function, supports homeostasis, and unblocks negative energy.
Wow, that sounds quite impressive. Can you give us an example of how we could, or how could I, or you, or someone, our listener, use one of these patches for best results?
Yes, I had a long drive from Florida to Houston, Texas last week, about a 12 to 14-hour drive. And I applied the energy patches that morning when I left Florida. And I went all the way to Houston. I didn't nod at the wheel. I didn't get tired or restless. I made it all the way to Houston. I wasn't worn out when I got there. I felt just fine. And then I wore them on the trip back and had the same result.
Great. So how would you apply them to your body?
You can use them in several places. It's a two-patch system. That's what the envelope looks like. It is a tan patch and a white patch. There we go. You put the tan patch on the left and the white patch on the right. And you just peel it and stick it to your body. Left, tan on left, white on right. And you don't even have to stick it to your skin. You could actually stick it to your clothing. Sometimes when I'm on my feet all day, I'll stick them on the bottom of my feet. There's different pressure points in the directions where you can use. Sometimes you can put them on your elbows. You can put them on your lung one, on your chest up here. And basically, wherever you put them, it's going to move the energy through your body and create more energy naturally.
Wow, that's amazing. So that's part of the reason why we're doing these interviews, because that's something that I didn't even know. I just grabbed one of those yellow patches and put it on me, and I had plenty of energy. So now I'm gonna have to go use the white one new and see how it works.
It's a two-patch system, and there's 15 of each in each sleeve.
Okay, thank you. So it's like, is it a natural energy boost without the crash that comes from caffeine or energy drinks?
That's exactly it. It's causing your body to burn fat and create vital energy naturally. There are no stimulants involved. The only thing going into your body is your own light reflecting from the patch.
Wow, absolutely. So Arthur, thank you so much for joining us today. There has been a very lightning process in this conversation, and I'm sure our listeners enjoy this as well. So why don't you let's just go ahead and wrap this episode up and stay tuned for more exciting conversations optimizing your health and energy. So, Arthur, any last final comments?
No, thank you very much, James. I appreciate you having me here.
All right. Until next time, take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.